Howdy, welcome back to Wobble Enjoy Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Let's get stuck into multicultural round 5 for the 2025 NRL season. Round 5 starts from GIO Stadium in Canberra. The Raiders host the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Canberra find themselves $2.46 outsiders, whereas the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks are favourites at approximately $1.55. Going into the team list news now, and for the Canberra Raiders, they are the same 1-17 that went down to the North Queensland Cowboys this past weekend. But for the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, who went down to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs on home turf, Talakai and Kyle Iro are out for the Sharkies. That means Hiroti comes back into first grade and he will be at centre, and the interchange now reads Hazelton, Rudolph and Hal Tapahua for the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Raiders on a 2-game losing streak. The Cronulla Sutherland Sharks losing last weekend. Raiders, they clearly weren't at their best. They played pretty average at times last weekend, but they still were in it right up until the end against the Cowboys in what was a decently played game of footy. Cronulla, they were involved in probably the most intense, highest quality first half of the 2025 season, or just half of footy anyway, and then they did fade. But even throughout that first half, there were still errors that were being made by this Cronulla Sharks outfit that they were making or have been making over the past few seasons or so. Kyle Iro is going to be an enormous loss, and it's going to be the first time that they will have played without Iro in maybe 12 months, maybe over 12 months. So that's going to be a bit of a shock to the system. Back in front of home fans, I'm really leaning towards the Canberra Raiders. Sharkies, they did go down and smash a, albeit B string side, sometimes C string side, down in Canberra, but it was full strength for the first 15 minutes, and the Raiders were on top 10 points to nil inside the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game. That's why, with that bit of knowledge in my head, I'm going to go the Canberra Raiders, the upset. Why friggin' not? I mean, the theme of the opening month of footy has been the upsets have been getting up big time, so I'm going to go the Canberra Raiders to win this one 1-12. Friday night football, there are 2 games, and match number 1 is from CommBank Stadium, Panthers versus Cowboys. The Penrith Panthers, they are about $1.25, and then the Cowboys are about $4.25. That is getting bigger as the hours are going by. The Penrith Panthers, they do have team list changes, one of them being that Brian To'o is out for the next 4 weeks, so that pushes Jenkins into the centre slot, but then Casey McLean comes back into the fold and he will be overtaking that slot, and Paul Alamotti also playing on the wing this weekend. Dane Laurie remains at fullback because Dylan Edwards is still out, not even named on the reserves as well, but Nathan Cleary does come back for the Penrith Panthers this weekend. The Panthers forward pack is still very much full strength, besides Scott Sorensen, admittedly. Scott Sorensen out with a concussion. Isaiah Papali'i starts in the second row. Therefore, the interchange for Penrith looks like Schneider, Eisenhuth, Henry and Garner. Conversely, for the North Queensland Cowboys, they are unchanged after their first win of 2025 last weekend against the Canberra Raiders. Jake Clifford was incredible. I thought Tom Dearden played his best game of 2025, and Murray Taulagi and Jackson Purdue are really forming a good combination down that left edge. I really like what they're doing, and a shout out to Jeremiah Nene as well. He looked like he had a rocket strapped to his feet, and he was really good last weekend, I thought. Go Cowboys. I believe that they can go down and nab the upset. The Panthers are out of form. They are leaking 30 points on average a game, but so too are the Cowboys. I don't know if this will be a high-scoring game. I really don't think we're going to see a 30-26 scoreline, but I do think we're going to see a Cowboys victory this Friday night. Go Cowboys! The main event of Friday night football is the greatest rivalry in rugby league across the planet. South Sydney Rabbitohs versus the Sydney Roosters. And the Rabbitohs, they are the favourites at $1.66. Roosters, they are $2.23 outsiders. For the South Sydney Rabbitohs, absolutely ginormous news. Latrell Mitchell is back. That's big enough, and he's looking mighty fit. Call him Trell fit. But Latrell Mitchell is playing in the centres, and they've elected to keep Jai Gray, who is leading the Dally M's at the moment, at fullback. That is a dangerous looking back five, and you still got to account for the fact that Alex Johnston and Campbell Graham are out with injuries as well, and this back line is still looking deadly. The forward pack for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, Tavita Totola, Kepi and Mamazula start. Kolomatangi, Arrow and Lachlan Hubner returns to action after a 2-week suspension. He's at lock. Therefore, the interchange reads Sullivan, Havili, Duncan and Mawali. Thought Liam LeBlanc last weekend just quickly was very solid off the bench. For the Sydney Roosters now, the only change for them, I believe, there's a couple. So we've got Victor Radley, who was out due to concussion protocol. However, Connor Watson does come back into the fray, but he returns to the hooker position. Nat Butcher will start at lock, and Spencer Leniu starts in jersey 17, and Lindsay Collins starts in jersey number 8 alongside White. Roosters, I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt anymore yet. They were an intimidating team last year, holding on to that last little bit of intimidation, admittedly. But they're not an intimidating team anymore. They have always been a ill-disciplined team, chock full of errors and penalties. South Sydney, on the other hand, they were good against Penrith in that first half. Penrith afforded them a lot of opportunities to get that lead, and then in the second half, South Sydney just clung on. So it was a good win. Sure, you do get confidence out of it, but that second half, still, they're full of errors themselves, South Sydney. So this could be, I think this will be close, but I do think the South Sydney Rabbitohs will get this one, but it could be a scrappy old game, especially if there's wet weather footy this Friday night. So I'm going to go the South Sydney Rabbitohs to win this game 1-12. Super Saturday, there are 3 contests, and match number 1, the second time we travel to CommBank Stadium in round number 5 for multicultural round. Parramatta versus the St. George Illawarra Dragons. The Dragons are $1.55 favourites. The Parramatta Eels are $2.47. Zach Lomax versus the Dragons. Clint Gutherson versus Parramatta. There's a lot of juicy storylines, and if you think back to their previous encounters, ever since CommBank Stadium opened, every time Eels take on the Dragons at CommBank, it turns into an absolute friggin' doozy, man. I'm really looking forward to this contest. Oh, bloody hell. But I'm really looking forward to this contest for a multitude of reasons. That is not a good omen in any way, shape or form. But let's go into the team list now for the Parramatta Eels. So their 1-7 is unchanged. Their forward pack, Riley Smith starts for the first time in first grade in at hooker. Sean Lane, Kautoga and Hopgood are the back row. Dylan Walker makes his Parramatta Eels debut in jersey 14. That could be a very sneaky good addition this year. Luca Moretti, Sam Tuivasa and Dan Keir round out the interchange. And then for the St. George Illawarra Dragons, wow, what an upset victory against the Melbourne Storm at Cockra. There were errors, but I thought it was a pretty good quality game of footy, man. Definitely a top 10 so far in 2025. So Tyrell Sloan, Sully, Holmes, Tuapolotu, they are the back 5 with Clint Gutherson at fullback. The forward pack is Couchman, Dave Clemmer and Damien Cook. And the back row is Leilua, Sewer and DeBellin. And the interchange for them reads Jacob Little, Blake Lowry, Hamish Stewart, and Dylan Egan. And wow, I got to talk to the Mad Dragon and his co-hosts about this bloke, because Dylan Egan, nearly said Dylan Edwards, Dylan Egan came off the bench for his first grade debut last weekend, and I thought he was the difference. Really, he came on and provided a spark and energy, and he looked fantastic. His first touch, he made 10 plus meters, made a good play the ball, and then he won a penalty for his team, and later on, and they got around him. Dylan Egan, God damn it. Dylan Egan was really impressive on debut, but it was also only the week or two before Hamish Stewart made his debut, and I thought he looked quite all right as well. So they've got a couple of young forwards, don't they, that are really chomping at the bit for the opportunity, and they've taken it. Now, in what has been a season full of upsets, I don't know why, maybe because I'm an absolute goose, but I got a feeling about the Parramatta Eels. I kind of want to tip them. They've been playing really tough over the past fortnight in particular. The Dragons, they were involved in a rain-heavy, really defensive-minded contest last weekend against the Dragons. They would have put a hell of a lot of energy into it. They did. So what are they going to be like the week after? That's what I'm tripping myself out about, is how are they going to back up after an energy-sapping performance like that, when it was heavy underfoot as well in wet, slippery conditions. I mean, they look the better team on paper, don't they? And it is that they deserve the favoritism, Dragons. Look, you got to respect you got to respect the bloke that takes the shot and misses than a bloke that doesn't take a shot at all and then just sits at 0%, don't you? So at CommBank, I'm going to tip the Parramatta Eels this weekend to get their first win of 2025. The second game on Super Saturday is from Cbus Super Stadium, Gold Coast versus the Dolphins. They call it the Sunshine Showdown. Gold Coast Titans are $1.49 favourites. Dolphins are $2.65. The Gold Coast Titans, man, nice, decent old victory against a bit of an ordinary Roosters outfit at the moment, admittedly. And then the Dolphins, competitive in the first 50 or so minutes, and then it just got a bit too large on them, didn't it? For the Gold Coast Titans now, the 1 through to 7 is unchanged. The forward pack, Sam Verrills is out, I believe with a hip injury at hooker, so therefore Chris Randall goes in, and Big Tino, he remains starting at lock position. Khaleesi Haas also starts in the second row, and the interchange reads Sean Mullaney. He makes his first grade debut this weekend. David Fifita, Jamin Jolliffe, and Brock Gray. And Brock Gray has gotten through a fair bit of work over the past fortnight or so, so kudos to him. He's another one that's taken his opportunities as well. And then going into the Dolphins team now, Tom Gilbert is out through suspension for a high shot. He's just going to miss the one game, but their 1 to 7 for the Dolphins is unchanged. The forward pack, Saifidi, Kofusi, Fenafuiaki, Connolly Lemuelu starts in the second row with Max Plath reverting back to the lock position. I think he will have an absolutely enormous game, by the way. Max Plath this weekend. Kurt Donohoe, Nichols, Stone, and Kenny Bromwich in jersey number 17 this weekend. It would be remiss of me not to mention it again, but we've had upsets all year, and this Gold Coast Titans side, they've won 2 on the trot now, and they've looked pretty decent doing it, but there's still so much more trust that this club need to build up, and maybe my upset tip has gone in the wrong place. I tipped Parramatta just then. Maybe the upset tip should be coming in this Dolphins side, because the Gold Coast Titans, I just need to see a bit better polish on their last tackle options, I think. There's just something about the Titans attack at the moment where, yes, they can still score points, right? But it's still, they're still roughing out the edges sort of thing. So I've got a feeling about the Dolphins as well, hey, but I don't want to go too upset tips. Oh, wait a minute, I already have. I've tipped Raiders. Alrighty. I'm going to go the Gold Coast Titans to win 3 games on the trot. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt again, or for the first time in 2025. There's a feeling about the Dolphins. There is an upset happening this Super Saturday. There's an upset happening coming this weekend. Where do you put it? But I think the Titans should be too good for this Dolphins outfit, who at times this season just look a little bit lost for answers, and now they've lost their captain. So maybe that might galvanise them. They all might raise the level up a little bit. But I'm going to go the Gold Coast Titans here in a close one. And the main event of Super Saturday is from Suncorp Stadium. The Brisbane Broncos take on the West Tigers. Broncos are $1.14, whereas the Tigers are $6 outsiders. Gee whiz, you can find some value there. Holy dooly. Now for the Brisbane Broncos team list lineup, their 1-7 is unchanged. Their forward pack now is Brendan Piakura starting in the second row because Jordan Ricky has been suspended. And then interchange reads Walters, Jensen, Willison and Jaden Hunt. Now for the West Tigers, Jerome Luai is out due to suspension. Therefore, Latu Fainu and Galvin are the halves pairing this weekend. Luke Lalali'i is also on the wing. Adam Dewey does return after being a late withdrawal due to a groin complaint. And the forward pack is their starting forward pack. And Talon De Silva, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird and Fainu. Sione Fainu is in at jersey number 17. Payne Haas versus Terrell May this Saturday. That's worth the price of admission alone. But without Luai, and I know you've got Coruscant, and I know you've got Fanoa Pole, who's also going gangbusters in 2025 so far. But I'm just going to have to go the Brisbane Broncos in this game 1-12. Sunday football, match number 1 is the game of multicultural round number 5. This is the Manly Sea Eagles taking on the Melbourne Storm from 4 Pines Park. Manly, they are the outsiders at $2.54. The Storm, they are $1.52 favourites. Lehigh Hopewadi is at fullback. Tom Travojevic is out for the next 4 weeks at the very least with an MCL injury. Clayton Falalalo is the inclusion on the wing for Hopewadi, and Brooks and Cherry Evans is the halfback. The forward pack, Nathan Brown starts with Takiaho, and Jazz Tavanga starts in jersey 9 as well. Olakawatu and the Trebojevic brothers round out the back row, and Simpkin, Waddell, Bullymore and Sipley are the interchange. The Melbourne Storm now 1 down through to 7 is unchanged after last weekend's loss to the Dragons. However, Jerome Hughes has been named on the reserves list, so watch this space. I don't think that's going to eventuate though. The forward pack for them is unchanged, and the interchange is Garlic, McDonald, Kamitha and Va'alepu. God, I want to tip Manly, and it's not because, I dislike Melbourne or whatever. I want to tip Manly, but they'll be fired up after that loss. The Melbourne Storm, they would not have been impressed in the slightest. And Manly, they're still a little bit patchy, aren't they? They really should have put the cleaners through Parramatta, but Parramatta Eels are playing tougher as the weeks go by. I really want to tip Manly in this game. They've been ferocious. They have been different at 4 Pines Park so far in 2025 and throughout the majority, I believe, in 2024. So, it's sort of like tipping against Penrith at the moment if you're not North Queensland this weekend. You can't tip against the champions. So I'm going to have to tip the Melbourne Storm in this game. They have won there in recent times. They don't fear 4 Pines Park. They did lose there last year, though, admittedly. But I'm going to have to go the Melbourne Storm in this game. I think their defense might just be a little bit better. I think that's what will get them over the edge. I think their defense will be better than Manly's. So I'm going to go the Melbourne Storm 1-12. And the final game of round number 5 is from Accor Stadium. It's the Bulldogs versus the Newcastle Knights. Doggies are $1.43. Newcastle are $2.85, and Newcastle are coming off of the bye. But let's start with the home team first, and 1 down through to 7 is unchanged after last weekend's triumph against the Sharkies at Shark Park. The forward pack is King, Saluka Fafita and Marnie. Curran, Preston and Salmon round out the back row. Kurt Mann, Harry Hayes, Jack Todd and Curtis Morin. And for you Doggies fans, you already know, but Jacob Carraz, for those who don't know, has been named on the reserves list, so watch this space. For the Newcastle Knights, who are coming off a loss to the Gold Coast Titans and a bye, this is how they line up. Ponga, Schiller and Mazu, the back three, with Best and Gagai the centres. Sharp and Cogger remain as the halves. Jacob Saifidi, Crossland and Leo Thompson start in the front row. Kant, Frizzell and Elliott the back row. Brayley, Hetherington, Jermaine McEwen and Matt Croker round out the interchange bench for the Newcastle Knights. I give the Newcastle Knights a bit of a sniff here. I think they've had the week off. They had a bit of a torrid start to the year, but I think that they can make this a very competitive game. I don't think this will be a blowout. Despite how great a form the Doggies are in, I can't believe that they are undefeated on top of the ladder. So credit to them, and the Doggies fans must be going absolutely insane at the moment down there at Belmore. So, no, I'm happy for Dogs fans. I'm just not a Dogs person, if you know what I mean. But I can't tip against the Bulldogs at the moment, bro. And there is a game that I've already circled in great anticipation. We got Anzac Day Eve coming up. We got Broncos versus Bulldogs, Anzac Day Eve, Thursday night football. A top four bout that could be, at this point, could be like a preliminary final preview. I'm not going to say a grand final preview. That's a bit too OTT. But Broncos versus Bulldogs in about 4 weeks' time, Anzac Day Eve. Holy smokes, man, bring that on. But for the time being, I'm going to go the Bulldogs to win this game 1-12. Howdy, thank you very much for your continuing support, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Enjoy the footy this weekend. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Adios.